I know everybody loves to see the Corvette stuff, and the motor is still in the works. I've got a ton of parts on order, but it's going to be, I guess, about a week and a half, 2 weeks before they even get here. Unfortunately, the Dakota needs a bunch of work. So it has started doing this to the spark plug. Well, one of the spark plugs. And this one is not even as bad as it's happened before. And it's just one of the cylinders. And that one cylinder has about 10 psi less compression than the rest of the cylinders. And it's been that way since I rebuilt the motor 5 years ago. But recently it's gotten to the point where if it's 80 degrees outside, it will start to run hot because it pushes all of the coolant into the reservoir. And when it sits and runs, you can see bubbles coming into the overflow. And it's just gotten to the point where something's wrong. And I'm pretty sure when I was rebuilding the motors and I ran sandpaper across the cylinder heads, that's what ruined the heads. So don't do this. Don't do that whenever you're rebuilding a motor. So I purchased a set of rebuilt used cylinder heads. So I'm going to swap the heads out on the Dakota, and I've got some other little things I need to do while I'm in there. The front cover is leaking oil really bad, and it's gotten worse over the years, and I don't know why that happened. So I've got to figure out what that is. I'm also going to do a valve spring upgrade on these heads because now I'm running 8 psi of boost when before I was only running 6 psi. Because yeah, that's the best thing to do when you know you have a problem, increase the boost. But I mean, this thing is cheap. The motor, to rebuild that motor costs $3 grand total. And I put ARP hardware and a bunch of stuff. I mean, parts for this thing are cheap. I can get a junkyard motor for this thing for $300 complete, heads and all, for $300 bucks. So I wasn't nearly as concerned. But it's got, I've got a set of 08 and up cams, and I did measure them. They have more lift. I don't know about duration. Everybody says they have slightly more duration, but they definitely have more lift, more than the high output cams. So right now it has high output cams in it. I'm going to sell those, put the 08 cams in it. I'm also going to put a bigger fuel pump in it because now I'm running E85 and I'm worried I'm running out of fuel pump. I haven't hit the red line on this thing in years since I converted it to E85. I'm also going to put a better flowing exhaust on it, and I'll show you that later. It necks down to literally 1.5 inches right out of the catalytic converter pipes. So I'm going to do just a few things. The thought was it was going to take months to get all the parts for the Corvette, and I was going to knock this out while I was waiting on that. I still need to do it to the truck because I have to have something reliable to drive while I'm working on the Corvette. But the parts are showing up faster than I thought, so I've got to get this done faster than I thought. So that's what's going on today. Enjoy a nice time lapse of me getting dirty and pulling a supercharger off and all that good stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, autopsy time. I'm not seeing a smoking gun, but I also am not a professional engine builder. That is the cylinder head. That is the cylinder that is always messing up the spark plug. I will say this valve is considerably pitted compared to this other ones. And this piston, part of it is brilliantly clean. And like this one kinda is right there, but not really like the rest of them, or like this one. This guy is just like brilliant clean. So maybe the coolant is coming from down in the bottom here somewhere. And I will say there's not as much black stuff right here. The other thing I'm just confused about is here's the head gasket. And I'm not seeing necessarily, that's the bad cylinder. And this would be where the spot is on the piston that's brilliant clean. Ooh, I think that's it right there. Right there. Yep, I think right there. Right there, I think is where it's getting passed. Well, I know I messed up the heads somehow or another whenever I just put sandpaper over them like an idiot. So it's getting new heads anyway. I've gone this far. I want to put new cams in it anyway. The cylinders and the pistons look fine. The cylinders don't have any scuffs or anything. The piston doesn't look melted. I think it was just getting coolant, because I put my bore scope down in there and you can see little droplets of bright green coolant. So I think coolant, you know, whenever it comes down, it draws coolant in. Now it's got a few water droplets in there. It blasts it, vaporizes it into, what do you call it? Steam. It's really hot today and I can't function. Steam, and then pushes some of it into the coolant. So I hate to do all this work, spend all this money, and that doesn't fix the problem. But just gonna keep looking and keep researching and keep trying. Oh, and if you're curious, this is what ARP studs look like after 5 years of daily driver use. They still look brand new. I put ARP studs in here because everybody said that these things have weak head bolts from the factory, and that's part of what causes them to blow head gaskets. It also could be a cheap head gasket. I cannot remember what kind I put. I'm either going to put a Cometic or a Dodge. Once I get my deck bridge and I measure things, because those new heads have been resurfaced. I don't know how much they've been resurfaced, so I don't want it to raise the compression a whole bunch. Or I put high output pistons. These little domes right here are the high output pistons, and they bump it from 9-to-1 compression to 10-to-1 compression. So I don't want any smacking of the components. So I've got my deck bridge coming, and I'll check all of that stuff. But just keep going from here and see what I can figure out.